Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, and welcome to the February 27th Eastchester Board of Education meeting. It's a pleasure to see so many people here with us this evening. I do have a couple of updates for the community. First, I would like to thank everyone for the positive feedback that we received on the letter that we sent out regarding the reduction in foundation aid. It is very important as a community to continue to advocate to our elected officials to make sure that Eastchester gets their fair share. This week on Friday, Dr. Valenti, myself, and Trustee Gagan will be meeting with Assemblywoman Amy Paulin in her offices to discuss the issue with her directly. I would also like to thank the community for all of the questions regarding the proposed secondary schedule change. There are still clearly quite a few questions and a lot of meetings to be had. Nothing will be finalized until we appoint the new high school principal, so please stay tuned on that. I know we all look forward to a lot more presentations. Additionally, please mark your calendars for September 18th. SEPTA will be having their annual Brownies and Bingo. We heard about that last night on the PTA Council meeting. It is such a fantastic event, and I know many members of the Board of Education will be there with me. Additionally, I would like to extend a huge congratulations to all of our sports teams who are having a tremendous season. Our varsity cheerleaders did an amazing job representing our community in Orlando. And I know that our boys varsity basketball team were in the playoffs tonight. Late breaking news, I heard unfortunately they lost by only 4 points, but 61 to 56, but I know they really gave it their all. So big congratulations, guys, on that. Additionally, we will also be receiving a presentation from Dr. Susan Chester on the progress of our DEI building initiatives, and that will be at our March meeting. That'll be via workshop, but it will also be live streamed, so I did want to inform everyone of that. I do also know that there are a lot of committee reports tonight and a lot happening throughout the individual PTAs. So, Rob, I'll actually start with you.
Great. Thanks, Matt. The Facilities Committee has been meeting frequently over the last several months in building a strategic plan around the classroom and building needs. They've done this in partnership with the PTAs as well. This has gone into, a different needs assessment to determine, what are those needs, and it ultimately, we're going to continue to meet to assess, what is that future needs that we have from a strategic planning perspective.
Thank you, Rob. Jill, I believe you have an update, committee update as well.
Yes, thank you. So from the Finance Committee, we met today to discuss the budget that's been proposed. Dr. Valenti will go through a presentation today for everyone to hear. A few future dates for everyone to be aware of. March 19th is the budget review. April 16th, the board will adopt the budget. May 7th, the public will hear the budget, and May 21st, the public will vote on the budget. So stay tuned for those important dates.
Thanks so much, Jill. Christine, I know you have a couple of liaison reports.
This is on. So on behalf of the middle school, I'd like to thank the teachers and the volunteers for the Read Marathon that took place right before the winter break. It was a great success. I joined in reading with some of the sixth graders. Some upcoming dates, I think, so for the 6th and 7th grade, on the 6th of March, there is the taco night. And then I do know that, I believe in March, we have our DEI meeting. And I think sometime next month, just be on the lookout for the next PTA meeting.
Great. Thank you. Jackie?
Okay, there's a lot of exciting spring events going on at Greenville, including a lot of fundraiser events to participate in. There are Yankee tickets and Mets tickets for April 21st and April 14th, respectively. These are discounted tickets with a couple perks included, so you should check it out. On membership, you can buy those tickets. Save the date for Parents' Night Out on Friday, April 26th at Molino's. Also, fifth grade, donate a pizza to the fifth grade. You can check that out also on membership. And next Thursday is the third grade recorder concert, and Friday is the fifth grade DARE graduation. So just keep an eye on all of those, and we hope to see you at a lot of those.
Thank you, Jackie. Lori?
The Waverly PTA Wellness Committee presents Grit Ninja on Saturday, March 9th. It's, the first two sessions are already sold out, but there are still tickets available for the 12 o'clock session. And the book fair is coming to Waverly on March 7th and 8th. Students will visit the book fair with their teachers, but families and siblings are invited to shop on March 7th from 6 to 8 p.m. The Ways and Means presents the New York Yankee fundraiser on Sunday, also April 21st at 1:30 at Yankee Stadium. Tickets are also available for purchase through the PTA website. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? Fantastic. And Cassidy, thank you for always being with us for the high school students report. Please.
Good evening, Eastchester community. As we approach the spring, I strongly encourage students to join the honor societies Eastchester High School has to offer. Please reach out to your teachers and society advisors to sign up before it's too late. The JASCO Weekend of Dance was a success. The students, parents, and community members loved it. There's a huge turnout, and we strongly advise students to take part in JASCO or attend the next performance. EGO Spring Blood Drive is tomorrow at 3 p.m. in the high school cafeteria. Please consider donating if you are 16 or older. This is an incredible opportunity to save a life. All donors remember to drink a lot of water and eat iron-rich foods before coming, and bring a form of ID. The Rock Against Cancer is coming next month on March 15 at 7 p.m. Come to see our talented students and staff perform on this amazing night. Quick reminder, the spring sports registration is now open. The high school offers softball, baseball, girls flag football, track and field, girls and boys lacrosse, boys tennis, and golf. We strongly urge you to sign up. Last week, boys basketball won their quarterfinal against Brewster, and today at 4:45, the varsity boys basketball team took on Peekskill in the Class AA semifinals. Huge congratulations to the girls varsity cheer team at Nationals in Florida. The girls competed in hard divisions and still did fantastic, placing 5th in the Division II Small Varsity Game Day out of 43 teams, and 20th place Division II Small Varsity Traditional out of 85 teams. Another huge congratulations to Matthew Thompson for breaking the 1 mile school record during his track meet, and Ava Panaccio for making it to states for a 1,000-meter race. Good night, and thank you for supporting all of us Eagles.
Thank you so much, Cassidy. Appreciate it. Dr. Valenti, I believe we're now up to you for the superintendent's report.
Okay, I will do that from the podium. How's that? Good evening. Can we all hear us? Yes. Okay. I want to pick up on something Mr. Finelli stated publicly about the high school principal search. I want to give just a little bit more information. I know I've received a number of inquiries from high school parents. Timeline-wise, we started in December with our committee to interview 6 semifinalists. Of course, we started the process back in September in terms of recruitment, but we've talked about that. The December meeting went extremely well. The committee was a vibrant one, stakeholders from throughout the entire community, ranging from administrators, teachers, parents, support staff, CSEA, all unit representation. And they made a recommendation of 3 finalists to go forward from the original 6 semifinalists. The board has done its due diligence, has interviewed the finalists several times, may I add, and we are now at a point of discussing terms and conditions of employment. So without giving a date, I would suggest that in the next month to 6 weeks, the board would be in a position, if all goes as we hope it does, to make an appointment And the agreement beyond that with the new high school principal would be not only to be involved in items like the proposed schedule for next school year, and those questions have already been placed before the finalist candidates, obviously, but to have the individuals serve for 5 consultant days with us to get to know our students, our faculty, spend time in the high school, get to meet with our administrative staff, get to meet with members of the community, the PTAs, et cetera. And I would like the individual also to complete a 90-day entry-level plan so that both the finalist and the district has a sense of what direction will be taken from July through the opening of school in September. So I did want to alert the community on that and update them on the search. I'd say net it's going extremely well. So let's talk about next year's school budget, and I'm going to move rapidly. This is available online. We always set a big picture, and as you can see, there are certain non-negotiables. We'll talk about the levy, core inflation, and we'd like to talk about some inflation drivers. These are some musts that the new budget must include. We want to remain within the 2% tax cap. That's extremely important. We'd like to remain below core inflation, and as of January 24, that was 3.9%. We anticipate that may go slightly lower, but we do think our budget-to-budget increase will be below whatever the inflationary rate winds up being this spring. We want our programs to be K-12. We want our revenue to equal our expenditures, and obviously we're committed to the concept of efficiencies and effective schooling. So where is Eastchester before I give you the numbers when we compare ourselves to our neighboring districts? These are unofficial numbers, but districts do report into a central location. Right now, districts are looking at about 3.8% budget to budget. Eastchester will present tonight at 3% budget to budget. So a 3% increase over the current approved budget by the board during the past fall. Tax levy in general out there is about 3.2%, and we're at 2.9%, and of course that includes both the cap and the excludables. So let's look at some numbers. We're estimating, you always start with revenue, that for next year we'll be getting about 2.3 million more than we have received this current year. So on the revenue side, including STAR, we're looking at about 81,655,399, and as I said earlier, that includes the excludables and remains below the tax levy cap. So the question on every taxpayer's mind is, well, what does this mean for me? So if we compare our current year, and recall we came into this current year with a 0% tax rate increase because the foundational aid was extremely high. It was a one-year bounce. We were delighted with that. And we were able to give our taxpayers a real break with a 0%. Coming into this next year, the aid is not as good a bump. Quite frankly, it's a slight dip, and we'd like to change that. But we do think that we could manage with an increase on the tax rate going from a 1.580 to 1.627. So the tax bill would increase approximately $398, or about 2.9%, including both the tax cap and the debt service, the program that we're running right now in terms of the $75 million project, which all the voters, as a matter of fact, already have voted on, and that is part of our budget proposal. So let's take a deeper dive into both revenue and expenditures. The numbers are there. I would say the one number we want to keep a close eye on, and the board president alluded to us meeting with Amy Paulin on Friday. We had met with other legislators, including Senator Mayer. State aid is always supposed to play an important part in our goal, and we want to be sure that we're not going to sustain any cuts in state aid. Right now, the governor is proposing for Eastchester a $400,000 reduction. We would like to see that entire amount restored. And anyway, Eastchester taxpayers could write to the governor, call the governor's office, or in any way begin to let them know that a reduction is not fair, and we ought to be getting the same amount of money next year as we're getting this year. So I know our legislators are committed to that, but we must continue to state that message that don't spend money elsewhere unless you spend money on your schools. And the way you do that is by giving the schools what you originally promised with the foundation aid. In the other areas of revenue, we are conservative in our estimates, and we do believe that we'll be able to meet that target of $105.7 million. So if we look at the estimated revenue compared to last year, the voter approved for fiscal year 24 was $102.6 million. We're proposing $105.7 million, so just about a $3.1 million increase in the revenue, or 3.8%. Continuing on the revenue story, it is less than the current year, and I've already alluded to the fact that that $5.7 million, this year's increase, was due to a huge bounce in foundation aid, one of once-in-a-lifetime kind of a thing. And the increase we're looking at for next year with the $400,000 slippage is about $3.8 million. So right from the get-go, you have to make up that lost revenue of $1.8 million, which represents a decrease of 3%. Why is there a decrease in revenue? Well, let's reiterate the obvious. We got a big increase in foundation aid. Current year, the governor has proposed a reduction of $400,000 for Eastchester, and our message is simple: Governor Hoke will restore the $400,000. If you break that revenue out into the three areas that the state requires in any budget, our local levy is just about where it ought to be, about 77%. State aid generally is in the 15 to 16% range for districts of our wealth. Obviously, if I was speaking to a community up north or a city school district, that state aid number would be a lot larger. But generally, suburban districts are in the mid-teens to high single digits. And then other revenue that we talked about earlier accounts for 8%. Now, let's spend a minute on the fact that even though the governor in her proposal talks about 2% inflation, we're living in a world where inflation is slightly higher, not only at the grocery store, but quite frankly, hospital medical insurance is up 13%. Just think about that. That's $1.6 million. And we're looking for ways to try and address that. And there's no way for us to control it as one district, but we do work with Swiss Chip, which represents a number of southern Westchester districts, all of whom are experiencing a very high increase. Our transportation also, because of supply and demand, there are not enough bus companies out there to service the number of districts who are looking for busing. That contract is estimated to go up $460,000, and we're also looking for ways to try and bring that cost down to reality. We don't want to be spending money on non-instructional items, and the classic ones there are insurance and transportation. State retirement is up 27%, and electricity, because of the new delivery charges that I think we're all paying. Even if you don't use electricity, there's a delivery charge for some reason. So it's up 15%. So welcome to the game. The schools live with the same problems that homeowners do, and we're trying to fight the good fight. When you add those, that's a staggering increase of $2.4 million that we have to try and find between reductions elsewhere and the revenue we are receiving. So if you look at core inflation, and this is a report in January, a core inflation report, it was at 3.9%. Now, I know there's the CPI and the PPI and the QXYTI, so I chose 3.9% as a core inflation rate. Our proposed budget increase is below that at 3%, so we are coming in below the inflationary core rate, and quite frankly, hopefully that inflation rate for everybody comes down closer to 3%. So our expenses are likewise up 3%, $3.1 million, and budget to budget, you could see that change. Where are we spending our money? Just about where the state would like us to spend our money. You want to spend most of your money, 74%, on program. That funds your teachers, your instruction, your curriculum, all of your program initiatives, etc. You want to spend a certain amount of money on keeping your plant in excellent order, aesthetically pleasing and conducive to learning. Also, capital expenditures for your busing and other related costs. And then your administrative costs, you want to keep that below 10%. If you recall, last year I did talk about the 11% figure, and I said we need to get that a little bit lower. I think we could be comfortable with a 9, at most 10% in that area. But that's the summation for this year, 100%. And you can see that visually broken out across the different categories that the state asks us to report on. So where should we be moving forward in terms of fiscal goals? We want to continue to maximize our interest income. It is one of the very bright spots that we can report on tonight. We do have capital project funds. We have good cash flow. And with the higher interest rates, although they're temporary, in the neighborhood of 5 to 5.5%, we're able to garner more interest than we anticipated current year, and hopefully that will continue. We think the Fed will probably start acting in the May-June timeframe, and as they ratchet down, we're not going to enjoy all the interest that we did this year, but certainly more interest than we normally would have anticipated. We want to maintain our unappropriated fund balance as close to that 4% figure as possible. And we want to adjust our teaching positions to declining enrollment, and I'll talk about enrollment in a minute. I do want to give a bow to the Fed. As you know, there are 3 types of bows. There is a slight head bow. There is a more moderate head bow. This is a profound head bow, and the Fed deserves it. Let me tell you why. We budgeted $241,000 for this current year. We were estimating 1 to 2%, and that's what it was. Well, lo and behold, the actual interest as of February of this year is close to $1 million, because now we're earning 5%. Now, in the game of finance, there are winners and losers. On this part, we are winners. On the inflationary end, we're losers. So, you know, it's not always a total absolute win. But on the revenue side, we're estimating by June, we might be as high as 1.6 million. And every one of those dollars above the initial estimate, literally 1.4 million, is something that we definitely need and will help us through this year and help us in terms of building for next year. So, quick road through enrollment. Kindergarten is always a guess. Our demographers tell us to expect 210 students. If that's the case, we want 10 sections. Our rising kindergartens are currently at 228. We have 9 sections today. We'll need 10. So that would be a net increase of 1 position if these numbers hold. At Ann Hutch, we're looking at 428 students, grades 2 to 5. We're estimating the same number of sections, a slight decline at grade 2, a slight increase at grade 5, keeping it at about 1 to 22 students, no particular change there. And when you go to Greenvale, we're in the same ballpark, 1 to 22, and no change in staffing there. Now, the middle school is going to be a slightly different story. That's where we begin to see a certain decline in enrollment. You can see we're down 41 students, and we do think that there are some opportunities there since we dropped below 700 for a little bit of trimming in order to meet the lowered student demand. At the high school, we're again down, not as dramatically. We're down 18 students for next year. And these are all estimates. We'll talk in next October about actuals. But at this point, we'll have to make the adjustments that we think are appropriate. But 18 is far smaller than at the middle school. So let's sum it up. Net, we're down 67 pupils for next year. For a district our size, that's not overwhelming, but it is 2%. And I have shown the community over a 5-year period, we're looking at a continuing demographic decline in enrollment. Why the slippage? Well, we are graduating this June, 248 seniors. And if you're only bringing in 210 kindergartners, right there you're losing 38 students. Our demographic study, as I said, does talk about a continuous slight decline through 2027. And we came upon, through our improved registration techniques, our new registrar, an examination of more families, because we're now checking everybody out. There are a number of non-resident students currently attending the Eastchester schools, slightly over 20, and we are actively investigating and removing for next school year those students who are not here legally. And every student does bear its own expense. So we need to make some sensible adjustments to the enrollment dynamic. We are looking at eliminating 2 positions, one which was on assignment, phys ed position at central administration, and a secondary AIS position in part because of the lowered enrollment. And we also are evaluating replacement of certain retiree positions. You have a retirement incentive program for a number of reasons, one of which is you ask the question, do I need to replace this position in whole, in part, or not at all? So where you can take advantage of that, it allows us to move forward with nobody losing a job. It's just that maybe we don't have to hire as many new people if we're able to consolidate certain positions. Technology. A little bit of shocking news here. We inherited, and I mean the board members sitting here and myself, Rob Jacoby and his predecessor, an inadequate past investment in our technology infrastructure. I think we have to lay that on the table and use the word inadequate in terms of 21st century classroom instructional technology. In fiscal year 22, we only spent $300,000, well below where we should have been. But we need to move forward. And unfortunately, in the $75 million capital project, there were no funds for instructional technology in that directly impacted our classroom instructional needs, okay? That said, it's history. What are we going to do about it? Well, we've already begun. Our classroom technology needs are close to 1.5 million. And this year alone, we've put enough money in there to reduce the remaining work to about $500,000. So that's a little bit of the good news. We picked up the burden this year through the general fund, transfer to capital, et cetera. I want you to look at the unmet technology infrastructure needs. And quite frankly, Rob showed me this picture just today. Look at the before picture. That was one of our closets. The wiring that we inherited. That is alarming. Now, we have a lot of closets looking like that. Now, we fixed this one. And remember the old Clairol commercial, right? Before and after. It looks a lot better, all right? But that means money. There was no magic wand. So we have current switches that cannot handle the power required of the newer technology, wireless access points. We have a Wi-Fi system near end of life, and a Wi-Fi system is the heartbeat and the blood flowing of what you do. Greenvale is the only one that does have an adequate system. And our current network closets, and that's what we're showing you in this picture, are at a maximum capacity, physically unsecured, and they require better organization. So this work has begun immediately. We will continue it, but I'm simply reporting that we have a road to travel here. So what must be done as soon as possible? We need to spend $288,000 on Wi-Fi replacements. The closet renovations that I showed you and HVAC upgrades could be another $500,000, and then the switch replacement another $1.1 million. So if we use $1.9 million as the road to travel, the next logical question is, well, how long will this take to fix? You do have unmet classroom technology needs, and those prevent next generation pedagogical best practices. It limits our student participation functionally and physically. It leaves little room for mobility in the classroom. So what are we going to do, first of all, about the classroom and continue efforts begun there? And what are displays in the classroom that are neither fully interactive nor adequately visible for student learning? You recall earlier the board was losing its streaming live capacity. We had to get all new equipment. So when I say end of life is close, there's a broad technology need that the district is confronting in this budget. This is what newer equipment should look like. This is what a newer classroom ought to look like. We ought to have the state of the art for our students, and we're settling for nothing less. So let's sum it up. We have a $1.9 million challenge in unmet infrastructure needs. We have classroom needs that I alluded to earlier, $500,000. So we're at $2.5 million in terms of work still yet to be done. So what's the plan? We'd like to do this in a 2-year plan, beginning next year. Use the remaining funds from current year budget within the technology budget and elsewhere to try and bring $500,000 to the table on or before June 30th to begin to address part of that larger number. We'd like to look at our secondary campus infrastructure needs through a 5-year BOCES aidable contract, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And where we are able to garner some funds, transfer to capital or unused current year funds, try and find another $320,000. So make a commitment of $0.8 million for this year. And then next year, the following year, I should say, 25, 26, finish off the elementary school infrastructure issue using $750,000 in aidable mechanisms. So what is an aidable mechanism? We call it an installment purchase agreement, an IPA. That means instead of going outright and buying all your equipment the first year and owning it, you go on to a 5-year lease purchase agreement. So the probable usefulness of a computer, a smart board, et cetera, is in the neighborhood of 5 years. So when you go on a 5-year lease, and we do this through BOCES, we are getting all the equipment at an upfront cost that's only a portion of what the total expenditure would have been. So as you can see here, a $2.5 million upfront purchase would now only cost us $1.5, paid over a period of time. So let's talk about more than technology. There are other programs. As I said, Waverly enrollment going up 1.0. We would like to see a literacy coach to help us in Ann Hutch, so that both Greenvale and Ann Hutch have their own coach. Right now they're being shared. We'd like to extend FLES to Ann Hutch and Greenvale, grades 2 to 5, so that would be one additional teacher each there. We'd like to go Writing Revolution district-wide. It's a highly prescriptive program. We were online with their national director, Dr. Chester, and I, and they're very happy to work with Eastchester, make it a pilot district where we're looking not only at the K-1 level, but moving that program right through the elementary, and in a minute I'll talk about our secondary effort. But we believe this is direction to go, and that it would support both our regular and special needs pupils. We need to do more for our K-5 performing arts program. It does become the feeder system for our middle and high school, and right now we can do better. One way to do better is through advisorships. We'd like to have 3 art show advisors, 1 at each of the elementaries, an orchestra advisor at Greenvale and Ann Hutch, so that your chorus, your orchestra, and your vocal, 3 major components of your music program, each have somebody in an advisory role, and it complements the current advisors. We'd also like to add a position at Ann Hutch. We want to maintain a full-time person in each of the Ann Hutch and Greenvale schools for music, vocal, and chorus. In band and chorus, we don't want to share. We want each of them to have their own. So as you could see, the net would increase by 1 full position in order to strengthen the performing arts program. And at some point, we'd like to show the community the growing numbers of students in the program and the appetite for an enlarged, reinvigorated musical, choral, and orchestra program. It's up to 70-some odd students now. It's not a struggling program. We want to look at an accelerated learning program for our elementary schools and take a harder look at the WIN period, maybe maximizing its use even better than what we've done so far. And we want to maintain performance on our state tests. As I mentioned, math, we did hit the 80% target. ELA, we're still striving to do that. And we still believe that we want to rank amongst the 10 most competitive Westchester school districts. So we have to hold the 80% or better in math and spring testing and improve in ELA to that 80% mark. The board's priority, too, is to strengthen academic outcomes. And at 6th through 12th grade, you recall we did expand Algebra R. We have 75% of our students now participating by providing additional labs and support. We want to do the same now with Earth Science Regents. So your middle school 8th grade curriculum is now becoming the portal to your high school accelerated math and science, allowing more students to look at more challenging math and science courses, which is a growing area, not only in advanced placement, but in terms of engineering, the whole world of digital, et cetera. So we want to move there to about a 75% participation rate. We had begun 2 years ago at 45. And I think the best thing up here is that parental option. If a parent says, whoa, this is too much for my son or daughter, I don't think I want to do it, thank you, but I'd like my child to stay in the regular grade A class, that's fine. Conversely, if the parent says, well, wait a minute, you didn't choose my child for whatever reasons of grades or whatever, but I think he or she can do it, then we have the option in. So that allows a very important option for parents who now own the responsibility of engaging their son or daughter in that program. I did talk about the writing revolution. It's begun at the middle school. We want to go into year 2 and begin year 1 with teacher training in grades 9 to 12. This is a structured analytical writing program, and we don't think we'll be losing anything by making it K to 12, but rather gaining a comprehensive systematic approach. We want to expand our advanced placement honors level courses to more students, and we want to increase our Regents level course participation. And I might add, any of the candidates interviewed for the high school principalship have certainly endorsed these as very legitimate goals, and in some instances practice it within their own school and district. Let's talk a little bit about athletics, where we have a road to travel. And just a piece of it, the modified program, and we could tweak this as we want, but we'd like to add a couple of positions, and depending how you define boys, freshmen, or modified, and I know there are definitions, either 7-8 or 8-9, or how you structure it, we're prepared to put money on the table in this next year's budget for a stipend of $5,200, one for boys and one for girls basketball, all right? We can get into the weeds a little bit later on as to what exactly that team would look like. And we would want uniforms for both teams, and we're projecting that cost there as well. So let's talk a little bit about strategic priority 3, college career counseling. You know, we're using the Tri-States evaluation visit. We're looking at hiring a new guidance counselor. By the way, we're replacing a retiring counselor and a new counselor to support career transition, peer mediation, and mental health efforts. So this is a big net plus. We want to continue our parent meetings featuring the high school and our grade 7 parent meetings, and we want to continue to monitor grade 8 to 9th migration to private schools. On facility, classroom, I talked about technology and field needs. We want to specify what projects included in the $75 million bond that were excluded, and what is it? The facility committee will be meeting this Friday, by the way. We want to look at each building and determine, and we've been in that process since January, and our architect and construction folk will be reporting their first level of information this Friday. Ultimately, the board will have a full report by May 2024 in terms of unmet facility needs and what possible costs are attached to that. Finally, our last priority, to support student mental health and emotional well-being. We continue to collaborate with the town of Eastchester and their care coalition. We will have a report next week on our DEI committees, both the building level and the district level. We will be implementing, currently we're training, the Yale University Ruler Program for next year. And we've partnered with BOCES on a grant, and we've been successful on that grant to bring a mental health clinic to our secondary campus. Just today, I was on 2 calls, one with our team and the Commissioner of Mental Health in Westchester, and the other with our BOCES partners, and they did get a $2.3 million grant. Not that Eastchester is getting all of that, but there will be a portion of that that would help support our efforts. The Ruler Program we could talk more about next week as well. It's a Yale University program. It's a K-12 framework, and it's an evidence-based research program. And you could see what it does for our students and our staff. It's a recognition, understanding, labeling, expressing, and regulating program. It builds a common language and allows our students to understand and regulate their emotions better, because emotions do matter, and it will help support academic learning. And there are tools that students would learn through Ruler, as you can see them there, the mood meter, the meta moment, blueprint, and charter. So we're also supporting a secondary summer school. We'd like to start that July 1st to August 9th for our extended school year program. And that will be at Waverly for students with special needs. And then we'll also sponsor, and it's in this budget, a secondary summer program starting July 10th through August 20th to accommodate the August Regents, to both prepare students for Regents and middle school algebra and now science. We may want to tackle that as well, the earth science, and then ENL support. So where do we go from here? Tonight, February 27th, we go to Tuesday, March 19th is the next budget program. I would urge board members, community members to address questions to the district clerk or to anyone sitting up here, and we would love to address those questions about the budget presentation. We will put this presentation online so that the entire community can go through it at their leisure. By April 16th, we will have a final review of the budget, and the board will adopt at that time both the Eastchester and the BOCES budget, which is part of their legal obligation. May 7th, there'll be a hearing on the adopted budget, and on Tuesday, May 21st, would be the public budget vote. Thank you. That was the quick
Wow.
rendition.
Thank you, Dr. Valenti. You got through 69 slides, I believe.
Yeah. And
I do have one comment as we're going through that presentation. It was nice to see in the proposal a lot of the feedback that we received from the community in terms of what they're looking for. And one of the notable things that's included here is the acceleration of the FLES program. And that came out of the Coffee and Conversation series. I actually see someone sitting here tonight who participated in that, where I think from that community involvement and input, we recognized if we had the opportunity to accelerate that, how that would benefit children in very specific cohorts as they're going into middle school. And that's just one notable one that you mentioned. And there are other things here in terms of writing revolution that came out of another Coffee and Conversation series. So it was very nice to see where a lot of that community input was included in this presentation. So thank you for that.
Good. Thank you.
I don't know if there's any other comments from the trustees. Great. Thank you, Dr. Valenti.
Okay, thank you. That's the end of my report.
Great.
Yeah.
I believe we are now up to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Christine?
Be it resolved that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda, which includes the following: 9, approval of minutes; 10, personal agenda; 11, education and curriculum and instruction; 12, Committee on Preschool Special Education recommendations; 13, Business Office recommendations.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Sean? All in favor? Aye. You got that, Lori? Fantastic. Our future meeting dates, as we said a little bit earlier, March 5th will be a work session that will be live streamed, and that work session will be centered around student mental health. March 19th will be a regular meeting, which will include more budget discussion and review. We are now up to comments for the public. When you come up, please state your name and address for the record. As always, we welcome all public comments and feedback, but please be mindful that we cannot exceed 30 minutes for this portion of the agenda in totality, and each person has a hard stop at 3 minutes. As I say every meeting, for some of the new folks here, it's not me being rude. We need to be fair to everyone that does come up. And as a reminder, this is not a question and answer format, so please refrain from mentioning any individual by name. If you'd like a broader discussion on a specific topic or topics, please feel free to email the superintendent's office. Thank you. Anyone tonight?
Hi, Cheryl Smith, Lakeview
Hi,
Avenue.
Sean. Nice to see you.
Good to see you, too. Thank you for the budget presentation. I really appreciated seeing that and seeing the developments in the district. I want to flag, it looks like there's no additional or budgetary sort of investment at the secondary level. And so I'm wondering, I'll be looking in the future. I mean, I see that the priority in the at the secondary school is to have more students in AP courses and in honors courses, and I'm wondering how we're thinking about academic supports that might be helpful for ensuring those students' success in a more rigorous course load, and that didn't look like there were any budget, financial investment in ensuring that kind of success. So I'll be curious to see if there's any sort of additional support to ensure student success in those areas. The other thing I wanted to raise was just wanted to flag that you have two meetings monthly. You have the regular board meeting and the working session, and I would ask if you could consider returning to having public comment at the work session meetings. Prior to this year, or maybe prior to last year, we had public comment at both working sessions and regular board meetings. We had public comment at the beginning of meeting as well as at the end of meeting. So it's public comment opportunities in public forums, like in the board meetings, have been reduced from 4 opportunities a month to 1. And I would like to see that return so that we can have more community investment and involvement in the public forum of the board meetings. And so I'm here to make that request. If you'd consider returning to having public comment opportunities at work sessions. I understand you have the coffees and conversations, but those aren't live streamed, they're not public. Not everyone gets to see how those conversations go. So I think having more opportunities at public board meetings is a great way to increase community investment and participation. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone? Okay.
Hi, I'm Laurel Gaffney. I know a bunch of you here, but
Hi, Laurel.
I just wanted to come up just to discuss a little bit about the schedule blocking that Dr. Valenti presented. This is my own personal comments. This isn't related to PTA, even though I'm on 2 of the boards. But I wanted to thank you for the presentation. I thought it was really well done. And just in my opinion, I think I love the idea of having the EAGLE period in there for extra help. I think that having that built into the schedule would be really helpful for a lot of students, especially those who maybe don't have parents actively around in the afternoons to say oh no, you need to go to extra help today. It's that's how my son is. I would think it would be really beneficial to him to have that extra period kind of built into the schedule. I also very much appreciate that we're trying to extend the school day and learning time during the school, because I didn't even realize that we were kind of at the minimum of what the state requires right now. So that was kind of eye-opening. I do think, though, that in terms of the longer-term plan with the longer schedule blocks, I just look at some of those times, 86 minutes, and I think back to when when I was in college, I had like 90-minute periods, and that was hard to get through as like an 18 to 22-year-old, let alone a middle schooler, instead of having to sit through a class for 86 minutes. And, yeah, we could build in, like maybe teachers could build in like a brain break or something during that period. But then again, if they have to do that, what's the point of like, avoiding the extra class switch and everything like that if they have to build in that time for kids to take a break anyway? And I just, one of the suggestions I thought of was, maybe we could look into schedule blocking where instead of just rotating 2 days, we do more than that, like have 4 or something, day 1, 2, 3, 4, so that we could, maybe alternate some electives or things like that and somehow build in some extra time into the schedule without having to have these really long class periods. So anyways, that's all I really wanted to comment on, but thank you very much.
Thank you,
Bye.
Laurel. Anyone else?
Hi, good evening. My name is Noelle Schwer. I was the one that sent the email yesterday. I also have some thoughts and opinions about the proposed scheduling. I do think adding 30 minutes is a good idea. I just was curious about why we were adding it. And I know, Dr. Valenti, you emailed me back yesterday. And I think extra help is great. I think mentorship is great. But I also feel like, in reality, how many of our students are actually going to use that daily? Is it realistically maybe 5 or 10% of the population? I don't know. But then I'm like, well, what's the other 90% going to be doing at that time? So I feel like instead of rushing into approving this and getting this going, why don't we first set up the committee? They can, figure out what best to do with that 30-minute block, and then propose it, and then go from there. Again, I don't particularly agree with the AB block scheduling either. I think it's too long, unless there is a compelling reason why. It's one of the better, types of scheduling amongst, secondary education. I know I spoke to a teacher that is a Scarsdale teacher. Her children go to Terrytown. They do AB block scheduling. And I got some feedback from her and her kids. And yeah, there's some pros and there's some cons. I feel like if we do have a committee first, then we can, check out all different types of scheduling. I know Scarsdale does a rotating drop schedule, Edgemont rotating schedule, I think Bronxville does a hybrid, 40 minutes, then they have like a 70 or an 80-minute class throughout the day. So I just feel like, can we pump the brakes a little? Maybe do a committee first, figure out what's the best way to use the 30 minutes that we're gonna add to the day, and other types of scheduling, not just the AB block scheduling. And then let's, have the discussion. So that's it. Thank you.
I'd like to respond.
Sure. Thank you.
I'd like to respond for a second, if I may, to your inquiry before you make a comment. Are we live here, Robert? Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you both for your comments on the 9-period day, et cetera. I want to make it very clear that the plan we proposed is a 2-year plan. And in the first year, I would characterize it as somewhat of a baby step. That is to say, keep your 9-period day, right? Put in that extra time into extra help or used as advisory, and use that first step to take a hard look at a number of variants in scheduling beyond the 9-period day. I'm not wedded to a block schedule personally. I'm not wedded to any of the other varieties that are out there, but I do think it's time for Eastchester to take a hard look at variant schedules that so many of our neighbors have been using for some time. So it's not that we're, at the cutting edge here. To be perfectly blunt, we're playing a little bit of catch-up. But that's okay. If we have a plan for catch-up, I think that's good. I'd want the new high school principal and assistant principal and staff fully engaged in that conversation. If you asked me how many students are currently using extra help, I don't know. But I plan to find out. Why do I not know? First of all, 40% of our students are leaving at 2:26 in the afternoon, even before extra help begins. So we've now lost a population who may or may not want extra help, but they're on the way home. We have another percentage who might be going to extracurricular or preparing for athletics. So I think we need to do a real data search, May, April, May, those months, and I'm working with our teachers union to actually look for ways to get reports, how many youngsters are clocking in between 2:26 and 2:53 in the extra help period, right? I think that data point can be helpful. Deep down, there is an equity issue that I'm struggling with. The equity issue is that if we have 35 minutes of extra help for children, why am I not offering it to all the students, but only those who don't take the bus or may not be able to stay behind? We talk a lot about equity. Are we being equitable? So if nothing else, having that period during the day, we'll find out a lot of interesting data points. Number one, how many of the students actually are seeking teachers and on which days for what subjects? That's important information. We don't know that now. We'll try and garner some of it, but we're not going to get everything. The other point I'd like to make is that if we set up classes of 15 students for that period, and using a platform that we're investigating, I think next week at the Blindbrook School District at their middle school, an interactive platform where students can ask for a particular teacher. Conversely, a teacher can ask for a particular student. We would like to have, of those 15 students, what percentage on any day would want to search out or seek out a particular teacher? Maybe a third, maybe a quarter, maybe none. So I think that's important data. The other, and I'll stop at this point, if I'm sitting in that class of 15 students and I don't need to see any of my 7 or 8 teachers that day, I can go to the library, I could see my guidance counselor, I may want to look for a support person on staff, or I might want to remain in the class and do some independent work or homework. So I didn't necessarily see the extra help period as moving backwards. I saw it as a good time to conduct a pilot study and say, what are our students looking for? The time is there, we have it contractually, we're paying for it, our teachers are the best, they're willing to provide it. Now the question is, how do we equitably allow all students to take advantage? That's year one, and that's the baby step. May sound to you like a giant step, but that to me is a small step because you're still keeping a 9-period day. I think you make the leap the second year if you choose to do so, and that gets into other language, okay? We call it block schedule, modified rotating schedule, periods drop out, periods appear, et cetera. I grew up in a system where we had 15-minute mods, and the faculty needed the students to explain it to them until we understood where should I go next mod or next period. That's a true story, because I was a high school social studies teacher, and I had to look for a student to help me find out where to go. But aside from that, what we really need to focus on, the block schedule should not frighten us. Right now, our kindergartners are on a block schedule. Did you know that? If I'm a kindergartner at Waverly, I have 120 minutes of an ELA block. Think about that. I sat through a block, I observed a teacher. And that teacher did a lot of different things with sometimes fidgety kids and sometimes excited kids, but they were learning. So block schedules should not be perceived, and I'm not here selling it, should not be perceived as unique. We do it at the elementary level, K1. We do it at the 2-5 level. And we don't really get away from it until the 5th grade when we go to departmentalization and then ultimately a team model in the 6th grade and beyond. So I simply want to clarify that I see it more as a gentle step to test the waters involving the right people going forward and not this massive step. Now, the flip side, is there an impact on transportation? To some degree, yes. And I'd like to have a chance to issue that report before we draw our final judgment. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Valenti.
Hi, Lori De La Parra.
Hi, Lori.
28 Claudette Way. Hello.
Good to see you.
I just wanted to get back to the discussion about the budget, and thank you very much, because that was a very in-depth presentation. A lot of the people who sit around this U-shaped table here ran on a platform where there would be no budget, no tax increase for 2 years, and we all knew that was not sustainable. So it makes sense that we're going to have an increase next year. But the focus seems very, very heavy on K through 5. And everything that was presented for the secondary level seemed pretty budget neutral. And we have this issue of migration from 8th to 9th grade. Perhaps if we invested in our secondary schools, we wouldn't have as much of that migration. I've been a part of the Tri-States focus group tonight and last year. And last year in the budget presentation, we were supposed to have a director of career and college planning. Well, that obviously never made the budget because we still do not have that position in place. I think that would be a great investment for us to have for our district. Perhaps we should have invested in that instead of digital signage and renovations to the district office. I really think we need to relook at this budget and make a larger investment in our middle school and our high school students. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Since we still have a little time, I just wanted to say, regarding DEI, in case there's not a public comment at the next meeting when you discuss DEI, I had applied to participate in a building level DEI task force and wasn't chosen, but I was invited to be on the district-wide DEI committee, and that hasn't met. I haven't heard anything about that. So I just wanted to put that on the record, since you're going to be discussing DEI next week regarding what's happening at the building level and at the district level. I hadn't heard anything about any meetings at the district level of a DEI committee. Thanks.
Yeah, Dr. Chester will announce that next Tuesday, Cheryl.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Rob, do I have a second? Christine, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Have a great evening, everyone.
Right.